If you ran into Al Capone in the middle of the day, you'd likely mistake him for a standard high society executive. He wore expensive suits, kept his composure, and navigated the upper crust of 1920s Chicago with the polished daytime routine of a legitimate corporate titan. But when night fell, that corporate facade disappeared. Behind the scenes, he managed a sprawling network responsible for underground murders and a bootlegging empire. We usually picture the Roaring Twenties as a decade of jazz and flappers, but in America's major cities, it was also a time of violent competition between rival organizations fighting for control of the streets. To understand how a mobster could effectively dominate an entire American city, we have to look at the specific legal policy that created the market vacuum he filled. In 1919, the United States government passed the 18th Amendment, enacting Prohibition. This move dissolved the nation's fifth-largest industry overnight, sending millions of gallons of alcohol into the city sewers. Initially, some citizens tried to replace their evening beer with wholesome hobbies like knitting. The public, however, quickly made a collective decision. They were going to keep right on drinking. The new law was full of loopholes. Doctors began prescribing massive amounts of medicinal whiskey, and orders for sacramental wine suspiciously skyrocketed as thousands of people suddenly claimed religious status to secure a supply. When a highly demanded product is removed from the legal market, the demand doesn't disappear. Instead, the industry dissolves into a void. Without government oversight or regulation, that space becomes a massive opportunity for criminal organizations to seize a monopoly. Capone stepped into this vacuum and operated as the CEO of a highly lucrative illegal corporation. He scaled his bootlegging operations using rigorous logistics. He built a network of illegal distilleries across Chicago, moving his product through hidden supply lines directly to thousands of underground speakeasies. A network that large is impossible to hide completely, so he protected it with systemic corruption, using his cash flow to bring local authorities and entire police precincts onto his payroll. Rather than trying to outrun the law, he neutralized it. This widespread bribery functioned as a corporate tax, shielding his operation from legal consequences. By applying corporate strategy to an unregulated market, Capone proved that organized crime functions as a highly efficient economic enterprise. But logistics only go so far in the underworld. To maintain that monopoly, the boardroom executive relied on the brutal tactics of the butcher. Chicago in the 1920s was defined by territorial raids. Rival gangs constantly attacked each other's operations, attempting to steal lucrative distribution routes by force. Legal negotiations were replaced with mechanical slaughter. The primary tool for this enforcement was the Thompson submachine gun, a weapon with a drum magazine that brought military-grade firepower into the city streets. This violence was a calculated business strategy. It was the most direct way to eliminate rival leadership and protect his market share. Capone maintained his dominance over Chicago through this specific dual strategy, using black market wealth to bypass the law and using lethal intimidation to eliminate his competitors. The ongoing street wars eventually culminated on the morning of February 14, 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. 7 men tied to a rival gang were lined up against a garage wall and executed. It was the ultimate move by Capone's enterprise to liquidate its final major competition. The aftermath appeared on front pages across the country. Photos showing rows of bodies covered by white sheets forced the public to confront the reality of the gang wars. This was the turning point. The scale of the bloodshed was so great that even the most corrupt city officials could no longer ignore it. The fallout of the massacre permanently damaged Capone's attempt to appear as a legitimate businessman. The brutal reality of his operation now overshadowed the expensive suits and civic posturing he had maintained for years. Looking back, the 18th Amendment failed its primary objective. The law did not stop Americans from drinking alcohol. Attempting to legislate morality didn't eliminate the alcohol industry. It simply shifted market control to a violent organization. It proved that forcing a massive market into the shadows leads inevitably to corruption and bloodshed.